Now let's talk about color on slides. Color contrast is crucial to making accessible and usable slides, especially where your slides are going to be projected via an LCD projector in a conference setting. Here's a photo of a slide I took at a recent conference I attended. This was a keynote presentation given in a big ballroom with low light, and I'm completely bummed that it didn't turn out very well. The not dark enough text on a completely white background was not adequate contrast for the type of lighting in the room, so my camera wasn't able to capture the information on the slide, even though I had been able to read it during the live talk. This problem is exponentially worse for people who have low vision. One lesson that can be learned here is that anytime you know you're going to be presenting in a large low-lit room, you should make sure you're using a dark background and light text. A larger lesson is that you can't ever completely control for context. You can only do your best to make sure color contrast is as strong as possible on each and every one of your slides. Color contrast is measured as a ratio of brightness to darkness, the brightness of a color against the darkness of the color it appears on top of. Black on white or white on black have a contrast ratio of 21:1, which is the strongest contrast possible. WCAG 2.0 guidelines specify different contrast ratios depending on the size and weight of the font text. Normal text is defined as 14-point regular type or smaller, and large text is defined as 14-point bold or bigger. With slides, we're usually working with large text, so let's keep that in mind. For accessibility, we need to achieve at least a ratio of 4.5:1 for the large text. In the slide deck, I have a few slide titles that are written in this orange color, and I know from having checked out the color contrast prior to shooting this video that the contrast between this orange and the white background it's displayed on top of is not sufficient. But let me show you how I perform this check so you can do it yourself. I'm going to use the color contrast checker at webaim.org. And for that test, I'm going to need to know the hexadecimal values of the colors I'm checking. A hexadecimal value, or hex value, is just a code that the computer uses to determine how to display a specific color, and PowerPoint gives me the hex value. I just need to know where to find it. To get the hex value, I'll put my cursor on the text of the title of this slide and find the Font Color pull-down menu in the Tool ribbon. I'm going to click the More Colors button and the RGB Sliders button one level in. The hex value is at the bottom of this dialog box. I'm going to copy this code to my clipboard using Command-C on a Mac or Control-C on a PC, and then I'm going to move on over to webaim.org/resources/contrast checker. When I get to the checker, I'll paste the hex value into the foreground color field, and that just means the color that's in front or on top of the background. Notice that pure white has been autofilled for me already in the background field, so I'll leave that one alone. That's what I want. Now let's step back for a quick second. What I'm doing here is comparing the orange foreground text against the white background of the slide, and the results of my contrast check are displayed a little further down the screen. Yep, and here, this is just as I mentioned at the beginning. This orange is too light against the white background, and it fails on all the accessibility checks. Good to know. To correct the situation, I'm going to use this darken button next to the foreground field and keep pressing that button till I see that my color combination passes both the WCAG level AA and level AAA for large text. Now I'll copy this new darker hex value to my clipboard, same way. Command-C on a Mac or Control-C on a PC, and bring this value back on over to PowerPoint. I'll paste the new dark orange into that same hex value area we looked at earlier and see how PowerPoint displays the new color swatch, that dark orange. I'll press the OK button, which brings me back to the slide edit view, and you can see that the color of this title slide has been updated to that darker orange. Now I need to make this change on all the slides that use that lighter orange color. I could make the change manually, but it will be quicker to use the Slide Master. I'm going to go to View, Master, Slide Master, and find the title and content layout. I'll select the title text of this layout, find the font color picker in the tool ribbon, and select the new darker color swatch. When I close the Slide Master, take a look. I've just made this change to all the slides that use this layout, and I did it in 2 clicks. You can't beat the efficiency of that. Now, if all of that looked like a complete and utter hassle, you have a couple of options. You can stick with black and white, which, as we have discussed, is the strongest possible color contrast you can get, but it's also arguably the most boring, and sometimes you need more colors or you want more colors. In that case, you can also check out the accessible color palettes that have been compiled for you at z.umn.edu/accessiblecolor. One more thing before we leave this topic of color contrast. I really like what the slide author did on this slide as far as stretching the photograph to the edges of the slide and making this question she poses, "What would you do?" a really immersive, emotional question for brand new teachers to consider. However, it's really hard with most photographs to be able to control contrast when you put text on top of a photo like this, and the image is really making it difficult to read all the words in the question. When you do place text on top of a photo, make sure to put a colored text box underneath it, or to put the text in an inactive area of the photo where the text won't compete with what's going on in the background.